Hello, and welcome to the Tower Coffee Hour. I'm your host, Preston, or Ty Tyree. And in this episode, we're taking a look at the mixed use board meeting from March of 2026. It was fairly simple, fairly easygoing. Tricia McKinnon, the executive director of Cohere Mueller, gave a presentation, and then the board got into the discussion of the dog park. And that took a long time and got a lot of really good information out on the table. So it's worth looking at. So give us a look and we'll do this again.
Got everybody? Good evening. Welcome to the March 9th meeting of the Miller Mixed Use Board of Directors meeting. Per our normal practice, we'll start with the community forum in which any individual who would like to make comments to the board can do so within a 3-minute time span. Our staff will let you know when your time limit is up. We will attempt to accommodate everyone who has signed up. We will give priority to those who are signed up to speak on topics on this evening's agenda. And if for some reason you aren't able to make your comments during the 20-minute time span, you can always email additional comments to the Property Owners Association. Since it appears we've got a full list of people one other thing, and it's just a suggestion. If you hear someone provide comments that mirror yours very closely, you always have the option of skipping making your own comments if somebody's already said what you wanted to say. Just a suggestion. All righty, why don't we start with the first person? Oh, and we'll be going in the order that people signed up with.
All right, Kathy, you're up there so far. Do you all want us to stand somewhere?
I think
Just
Yeah.
there is fine. Okay.
Right up there.
there's a microphone right there, somebody.
Sure, whatever. Oh, yeah, whatever you want.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kathy Sokolic. I've been in Miller for 18 years. My reason for speaking tonight is just pretty much to beg y'all to table a topic of a dog park at this time. My reason being is kind of a multitude. We've just lost 3 major staff at Cohere, which takes a lot of time away from the people who are remaining. I had a neighbor who put in an active roof leak over the weekend, and it wasn't even seen because it was directed to people who no longer work here. So we've kind of got a personnel problem right now with our neighborhood and maintenance. The community also kind of spoke and said, hey, we don't really want to pay for another amenity at this time. This would, even if 1 year is free, guess what? We get more years, cool. But my ask is that we really delay anything new until our current amenities are taken care of, maintained, and that our row homes are taken care of. And it's coming at a detriment to our property values on the row homes and the condition of our homes at this time. So I just am begging y'all to just focus on one thing and get that done and then go on to some other stuff if possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Lenga.
Hey y'all, my name is Langa. Happy to have this time to speak to you all about the dog park. I'm here to share my continued concerns about the proposed off-leash dog area near the Southeast Greenway or at the alternate proposed location of Garcia Park. The POA's dog park working group considered and studied 2 locations for the off-leash dog park pilot program, which included the Southeast Greenway and Northwest Greenway. The dog park working group voted for and selected the Northwest Greenway after months of deliberation and work. The Off-Leash Dog Park Coalition was not satisfied with that outcome and continued to push for a second privately funded off-leash pilot program and resurrected the Southeast Greenway location to be considered again. Our request is that another location should not be considered a second time. The Southeast Greenway Alliance. We formed to protect wildlife and to advocate for a multi-use space for all of our neighbors to be able to use and enjoy, and to protect the sensitive ecosystem. The alternate space that has been suggested is only about a quarter of a mile away from the Southeast Greenway, and 5 minutes on foot. As we've talked about, parking is a major issue. Birdability, which is part of the Travis Audubon's accessible birding program, utilizes the Southeast Greenway parking area, and having additional traffic there would greatly limit the accessibility for folks that need it. We ask that the POA respect and carry out the decision of their own dog park working group and establish one off-leash dog park pilot program as voted and agreed upon at the Northwest Greenway location. And finally, I wanted to, I looked at the survey data provided by the Off-Leash Dog Park Coalition from their 2025 survey, in which 305 people responded to the survey. There were 250 respondents from Mueller. 88% of those Mueller respondents encountered off-leash dogs in Mueller daily or weekly. 79% of Mueller respondents said off-leash dogs in Mueller cause conflicts with people. And so the idea is that the off-leash dog park would resolve that. However, in 2025, there were 3 DOLA pilot programs installed throughout the city of Austin. None of them were approved, and the main reason was that they did not reduce the frequency of off-leash dogs outside of the designated dog park.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alpha?
Right. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Alpha Shrestha, and I've been a Austin resident for nearly 20 years, a member of South Greenway Alliance, and a lifelong nature lover. Spaces where all abilities can safely access nature, like the Southeast Greenway, are incredibly rare. One of the things that makes Southeast Greenway so special is that it already is accessible. The existing path allows people for mobility needs, families with strollers, seniors, students, and residents from across Austin, including dog owners, to experience a functioning natural ecosystem right in the middle of the city. I've seen this value firsthand, and I've experienced this. In 2014 and 2015, I worked as an intern in Thinkery, the Children's Museum here in Mueller, and helping run summer camps, and we often brought kids into the outside surrounding outdoor spaces and explore and learn. They were able to see birds, insects, prairie grasses, seasonal changes happening around them. They weren't just playing outside, they were discovering the ecosystem and how it works. And in a rapidly growing city like Austin, access to this kind of living ecosystem is extremely valuable. The landscape they were exploring is also very rare. In fact, the Southeast Greenway site on Texas Blackland Prairie, the most endangered habitat in North America. Historically, this ecosystem covered about 12 million acres across Texas. And today, fewer than 5,000 acres remain, and 0.01% of what is now existing. So today, this corridor supports more than 200 species of birds and serves as an important migration stopover, a breeding ground, and a winter refuge. It's a location within an urban neighborhood, makes it a rare example of how habitat restoration that people can actually experience. And then because of the ecological importance, I respectfully urge you to reconsider placing the off-leash dog park near the Southeast Greenway. And I know that Mueller has been recognized as a model for thoughtful urban planning and prioritize sustainability and community access and connection to nature. Protecting the Southeast Greenway continues that legacy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Meryl?
Hi, My name is Meryl Foote. I've lived in Mueller since 2019, and I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the Mueller Dog Park Coalition, whose 350 members want an off-leash area in Mueller. Our goal is to provide designated off-leash space to reduce conflicts between off-leash dogs and people. We also support the community that dog parks create and want to see that happen here in our community. 3 different surveys, including one by the POA, show that people overwhelmingly support an off-leash park in Mueller, but there's not consensus on where it should be. The majority support having it in the Southeast Mueller area, closer to where most POA members live. There's also support for the Northwest Greenway, but there aren't as many people who said that they wanted to have it there. The POA's Dog Park Working Group also voted unanimously for an off-leash area, but we split. I was on the working group. We split 5-4 in favor of the Northwest Greenway, and there was not consensus on that issue. The Northwest Greenway and Southeast Mueller areas are not mutually exclusive. The working group had to choose one over the other because the city could only pay for one pilot project. To overcome this barrier, the coalition is offering to raise funds for a second pilot, one in the Northwest Greenway and one in the Zach Scott Park in Southeast Mueller, not the Southeast Greenway. We have not resurrected the Southeast Greenway. In fact, a February poll shows more people prefer the Zach Scott Park to the Southeast Greenway. In fact, will everyone here who is part of the Southeast Puppy Play Group or part of the coalition please stand and show your support for 2 pilot projects and show off your beautiful dogs. Thank you. So having 2 pilot projects allows the POA and the city to test both sites to identify pros and cons of each. It's the only fair, unbiased, and accurate way to determine which will work best for our community. The community has said they want an off-leash area but lacks consensus on where. I ask you to please listen to your community and vote in favor of 2 pilot projects, either at the same time or one after the other. We'll have to raise the money, so that gives us some time. And regarding parking, the Zach Scott Park is right next to the middle school. Most people use dog parks in the evening and on the weekends, and there's ample parking at the school. So thank you very much for your time, and I support and am grateful for y'all's willingness to take up this issue. I know it's been hard for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, David Bank.
You already have that. Well, I can cut my piece in half now, thanks to Merrill. I've been in front of this group multiple times, and you've heard all the issues that we have about the Southeast Greenway as a pilot, including safety concerns for humans and dogs, parking and traffic overload, terrible infection control issues, and devastating environmental impacts. Several of us were from the Keep the Southeast Beautiful Coalition. We're active participants in the DOLA working group this past summer, and as you know, we were charged with making recommendations to the board. The highlights of that work group were the following. Number 1, an objective outside environmental expert talking about the extraordinary measures and cost of protecting the Southeast Preserve from the seepage of dog urine and feces. Number 2, DOLA got a report from the 2023 Landscape Committee Chair, who stated that the committee had unanimously felt that it was a terrible idea to put a dog park in the Southeast Greenway. Number 3, DOLA got exposed to multiple documented failures in Travis County of dog park pilots that were unsuccessful and did not proceed any further than a pilot. And number 4, a final vote of the DOLA working group recommended the more isolated Northeast Greenway as the potential pilot site if any dog park pilot should be pursued. When homeowners buy a home in Mueller, they have the chance to review the Mueller Design Book. On page 128 of the 2017 version, there is a section about the mixed recreational uses of the Southeast Greenway. This includes field sports, children's play areas, picnicking, group events and parties, nature walks, and informal soccer and frisbee events. This is exactly how the Southeast Greenway is being used today. The other document that homeowners must sign before closing on their homes is the Mixed-Use Community Covenant Agreement. I would recommend the board familiarize themselves with Article 2.04 related to noise and Article 2.05 related to household pets, as these articles have legal implications if the Southeast Greenway should be chosen as a pilot site. The homeowners that live proximate to the Southeast Greenway are aware of the public-facing comments and messaging that's been made on the Mueller Dog Park Coalition website. We've been called entitled, we've been called NIMBYs. I didn't know what that was. I looked it up. You can look it up. These comments have led to finger-pointing, harassment, and threats. This is not the way a sophisticated community like Miller should behave itself. As it relates to the Southeast Greenway, data and facts always should supersede emotion. Dog owners who want to expose their dogs to enclosed, off-leash dog parks have plenty of current options within a few miles of Mueller. Gently place your dog in the back of your car and go to these sites. We don't put pickleball across from homeowners, and we don't put dog parks across from homeowners. Thank you so much again for your attention and letting me speak.
Thank you.
Okay, Cooper Myers. We had some printing issues, so maybe y'all can share. More are coming, I think.
All right. So I've presented this a couple of times, and I did get feedback last time that I left the apartments out, and that's a fair criticism. So I added the apartments in as circles on this chart. And this first chart shows the existing Mueller Dog Run, which is the park that currently exists. It's relatively small, but it's very close to the apartment complexes. And also there are a handful of apartment complexes that do have dog parks on the apartment complex itself, which are marked with an icon. Now, this next chart is the Northwestern Greenway. If you look at the colors on the chart, green means it's a less than 15-minute walk. Yellow means that it is a 15 to 20 minute, and each band is an increment of 5. So purple is 30 to 40 minutes. I also live close to Garcia Park and Southeastern Greenway, and that would be between 30 to 40 minutes for me to walk to that location. And quite honestly, a lot of us dog owners moved to that location because of the community that existed there. I know many dog owners that live in this area in purple, and we would be very disappointed if the park was placed in Northwestern Greenway, because quite frankly, it would not solve the off-leash dog problem, because nobody is going to put their 2 or 3 dogs in their car every single day, twice a day, to go to a dog park. The next page is the proposed Garcia Park location. This one's great because, like they said, it's over a quarter mile away from the Southeastern Greenway, so there's no issues with the water there. It's also relatively flat. Northwestern Greenway is actually closer to a watershed, which birds fly around and they use the Greenway, and Northwestern Greenway is on the Greenway. So actually, Garcia Park, which is also known as Zach Scott Park, that's actually the best location for the birds, if that is your main concern. And there's also a lot of parking there. I live in this location, so I know that there's a lot of parking, so that's not really a concern either. I also included a map showing the closest park between Garcia versus Northwestern, color-coded based on which one's closer. And I also I have a walking distance analysis, and I did my best because I didn't have the full complete statistics from the POA on how many apartments and homes existed. I have my sources on the back of this page. I got those numbers now, so I will update my charts and provide accurate sources for these numbers. I use statistics for the average number of people per apartment unit, average number of dogs, average number of people per house, and average number of dogs per house. And the sources are all available on the back of this.
Thank you.
Yes.
Andrew Coleman?
Hi there. Andrew Clements, former member of this board.
current chair of the Mueller Neighborhood Association also, and I've lived in Mueller for 12 years. I wanted to speak in support of 2 locations for an off-leash dog park. I'm also a member of the Dog Park Coalition. The distance between the 2 locations, Garcia Park and the Northwest Greenway, is a 30-minute walk. And I know Tim knows, but I'm a diehard New Urbanist and believe in the New Urbanist principles. And a 15-minute or 20-minute walk is what you want for the amenities in a mixed-use neighborhood. And so I strongly argue that the neighbors, the residents, of which you're the board and should be representing and trying to satisfy the most number of residents in Mueller as possible, 2 dog parks at the distance that's being proposed in Garcia Park and the Northwest Parkway would serve the community the best, and also foreclose people having to cross both Mueller Boulevard and Berkman Street, which is obviously can be a bit of a challenge. So I think in the interest of the community, we should be supporting the idea of 2 off-leash dog parks. I think you have to discount the working group's findings because we know that a certain number of residents, immediate neighbors to the Southeast Greenway, solely got on the working group to oppose the Southeast Greenway. They said so in the working group. It's reflected in the minutes. So you have to discount the 5-4 vote if that's what you're going to rely on making a decision tonight. But I as we're governing ourselves, we need to start responding to what the most number of residents in Mueller want. And I think that's pretty clearly, and I think the needs are best served by 2 off-leash dog parks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just checking, has the time for the 20-minute community forum expired?
Yes, by 2 minutes.
Okay. Are there any other comments in the chat feature for those who are participating in the meeting online? There aren't any. All righty. Well, thank you. We'll now formally start the meeting. The meeting's called to order. We'll acknowledge for the record that a quorum of board members is present. We'll also acknowledge that we won't have minutes to approve for this meeting, but we'll rectify that at next month's meeting. One other thing, and I think, Commissioners, you all got an email from me indicating that the community garden rules won't be heard at this meeting because it's undergoing a second review by the garden committee, but I anticipate that'll be on our April agenda. And the swim team user group agreement is undergoing a legal review, which is always a good idea, and that'll be emailed to us, and we anticipate that'll be on the March Master Board agenda. So with that, we'll now move on to the report from the Executive Director.
Good evening. Thank you, board and community members. It's always nice to see so many people showing up and their commitment to engagement. Tonight, I would like to give an update on a couple of items. These items are updates within the community and also to support informed discussions that the board will be having here shortly. First up is our landscape updates. You all may have noticed that our service levels have increased. We have additional staffing on site as well as additional days that folks are out, mostly focusing on our late winter cleanup. They're doing some irrigation checks and preparing our landscape for the spring growth. We are also going to be continuing or getting back to the multi-year tree pruning initiative that was started. Last year it was interrupted because we had a storm that shifted priorities and resources. So you might not have seen such an impact in that area last year. So they're getting back to that currently. In addition to that, we do have our strategic landscape Planning is underway. The purpose of this is to balance environmental sustainability with long-term maintenance needs and financial stewardship. We're looking more closely at what plants thrive here, water-wise plants, shade versus sun, and how we can incorporate better growth. Alongside of that, we are also working on our landscaping restoration plan for our row homes and courtyards. So this is working hand in hand with that program to, again, ensure that we have the correct growth and plants for our homes. In addition to that, the lakes and the ponds, we are continuing to monitoring those closely. Most importantly, we're checking the filtration systems. Some of those have been a little tricky lately, so we're paying close attention to those and adjusting them as needed so that our ponds and lakes maintain appropriate water levels. Quick update on our pools. The Ella Wooten pool remains on schedule to reopen March 13th. So we had the replastering at that pool that went off really well. It looks really good right now. We did have some folks that were super eager to enjoy that pool prior to it being opened. So we appreciate all of the alerts that we received for that so that we could address it. It is important to recognize when the pools are closed, though, it is for the safety of the community. They're being cleaned, the chemicals, balances, things like that are being addressed. So we want to try and keep people out as much as we can. So I appreciate those who engaged with us to let us know that this was happening. John Gaines Pool, we had a little bit of a hiccup with that. They planned on replacing the filtration system last week. There was an issue with the shipping of the filtration system that was coming in. Initially, we thought, well, gosh, why don't you just drive down there and pick them up? And then they sent a picture of what they looked like, and there is no way in the world we could have driven down there and picked them up. So they have arrived. We do have them here. So they plan on Tuesday night coming in and starting that project just as they were last week. So they'll be here this week to get that done. Potentially, they could have work into Thursday. They'll let us know on Wednesday how that's looking. We do have some updates on our restrooms. There's been some issues with vandalism within our restrooms, and we're finding that folks are going in there and putting stuff in the toilets, and it's hard to clean out. There's foreign items that are being shoved down inside the toilets that are causing the issues. Part of this is because of the locking mechanisms on the doors. People have either kicked in the doors or jammed the doors or messed with the locks on the doors. So we have contacted a locksmith to come out and give us some proposals and update us on locking mechanisms and better doors. So we have those quotes. In fact, we just received those today. So we'll be updating what that looks like and asking for a recommendation on that. Some people may or may not be aware of, and we have had some staffing changes over the past few weeks. We do have a few transitions within the management team as well. John Cisneros, who was our asset director, and Angela Demore, who is our operations director, are no longer with Cohere. So we wanted to acknowledge them and their contributions to our community and wish them the best moving forward. But to ensure continuity, we do have several steps lined up to support the transition. We currently are recruiting for both director positions now, as well as the maintenance manager role that was vacated a few months back. In the interim, we do have an operational support from nearby neighboring community of Easton. So they have graciously provided us with some additional support that will be starting this week, a little bit later this week. We also have support from our regional director, Matthew Dozier, who many of you are familiar with. He is also stepping in and supporting us as we need. So that has been a big help to us. We're also continuing interviews for the events manager position, which became available following the internal promotion of Myrna Lincoln, who promoted to the events engagement director position. Again, just to reiterate that our priority during this transition is maintaining service levels for the community that they expect,
while also relooking, rebuilding, and making sure that we have our positions aligned correctly with what the needs are within the community and the long-term operational needs as well. So if you hear anything or need anything, Kathy, I appreciate you saying that. That helps me to know what might be falling. So I appreciate that. Next slide. And with that, I open up to any questions that you may have on that report.
Board members, questions, comments?
Tricia, can you make an update on the row homes?
Oh my gosh, yes, thank you. I did want to share that the row home special working group that is helping us review the RFPs for the re-roofing project is underway. We started already reviewing the RFPs received. We had great conversation and feedback. And our next steps are we are going to invite 3 of the contractors in to have an in-person meeting so that we can learn more about them and people can be more comfortable with a recommended selected vendor for us.
Any other? Yes, John.
Yeah, just 2 questions I asked last month, though. One, what is the progress on hiring the enforcement staff member?
That is posted as well.
That's posted. Okay,
Yes.
it hasn't been hired.
Yes.
And then
And in fact, if you don't mind, we've actually gone to a couple other communities who already have a well-established program. So we've done on-site training with them to learn how their program works. We're getting familiar with the software on how to use it in this capacity because that would be new to us as well. And one of the support that we have from Easton is they will be providing us more hands-on training so that we set up our program to fit Mueller specific needs as well.
And my second question is, have we secured the special event insurance that we were looking at last
Yes, we have been engaging with that, and that's Myrna, do you have more details on that?
We've had more developments come down about special event insurance that we could brief y'all on. But a lot of the coverages we get are now being provided third party. So the amount that we're needing has gotten smaller. For different events that we would be specifically hosting, there was a concern with KUTX specifically, the concerts that we host. They're now going to be providing the insurance, naming us as additional insured, which no longer requires then us to get the special events coverage. And there were just a couple that we're still working through.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking about Mueller Neighborhood Association events. There are several throughout the year.
They'll provide their own coverage,
Okay.
naming us, yeah.
And then also the swim team.
Will be providing their own coverage, but there is still, we're working with Insurica now to make sure that the gap is closed on that, but it has not been finalized.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I had.
Other questions? All right. Thank you for that
You're welcome.
report. All right. Let's see. Appears we have two more agenda items. One under old business, one under new business. Board members, would there be any objection if we took up the one item remaining under new business now and then took up old business? I don't know if that doesn't violate any rules. Is that any objection?
No objection.
All righty. Why don't we take up the recommendation regarding the committee guidelines? Karen, could you kind of give us a brief kind of summary of what the master board, because that's what we're looking at tonight, to make a recommendation to them, what the master board is looking for from our board?
Yes. So these guidelines were drafted a few years ago and never finalized. And then we took it up again when Tricia started and to make sure that they were they covered everything that they needed to, and Tricia sent them out for further feedback feedback from the committees and boards, and we did receive additional feedback. So I think today what the mixed use board needs to do is to make a recommendation on either adopting these by incorporating the feedback that is listed, or we could go through the different ones, or we could just ask if anyone has concerns with any of the comments. I've kind of made notes on them since I was one of the parties that developed these. So I could quickly go through the comments if you think that's necessary. I don't want to belabor it. It's not the most exciting thing for our guests, but
it's important.
You want to do it that way?
Well, no, let me see if board members, we all received this in our packet, and some you've had opportunity to review. Were there any questions, comments, or concerns about any of the information in the community committee guidelines document?
I have one. On the committee shall consist of 5 to 9 members. Yeah, so I guess my concern is like, why would we cap it, so to speak, and why would it be 5 to 9? So it's like 5 is the minimum, 9 is the max, or it depends on the committee. So I'm not as familiar with like the rationale behind that.
Well, that was based on kind of there are guidelines like what makes effective working groups, and there's like a range of numbers of members.
Yeah.
And then there are some, like the modifications committee is set by our governing documents, and they are a 5-member committee. And so I don't recall anything other than that being kind of, it seemed like a reasonable number at that time.
I got you.
And it gave the committee the flexibility to decide if they needed new perspectives, or, or they wanted to have a bigger group. I mean, just to give some flexibility without being too prescriptive.
Who would typically set that size? For like the pool committee or landscape committee or whatnot? Would that be the committee itself, or this would be like a board action?
No, that wouldn't be a board action. Like if a committee thought that they had 7 members and were working well together, I think they should revisit that probably at least every year to see, and I know our recruitment committee does reach out to all the committees to see if they feel like that they want to or need to recruit for new members. And of course, this contains term limits for committee members, which we've never had before, which should help with committees getting totally stagnant and not getting any new ideas coming in.
For sure.
Good questions.
Board members, other questions or
Yeah.
comments? Go ahead.
I have a couple here, 3 actually. One, we all serve as liaison members to different committees, and other than, in my own experience, other than being told that you're a liaison, I don't really know if there's any specific rules or responsibilities that I have in that role. I kind of through common sense can figure some out, but it seems to me it'd be nice to add maybe a sentence or two just to describe that exists and what the purpose of it is.
And is it my assumption was that the liaisons don't count as members of the committee. They're more like ambassadors,
Right.
who sit in on the meetings, but they're not, the liaisons aren't there to help make decisions or recommendations to the committee.
That's right. The board liaisons are there the committee might have a specific question for the liaison to the board about, how to make a recommendation to the board or that sort of thing. Or depending on the topic, they might ask for the opinion of the board member. And I think we've talked about it's important that the board member not actually interfere with the work of the committee by trying to insert their opinions too much in that. But we have never written any guidelines. We've talked about it, but we have not done that.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful both for the board member and the committees, just to have something, a rough guideline.
Well, you know, the Budget and Finance Committee did create some verbiage about
Okay.
the board liaison. Maybe we could float that around and
Okay.
get some feedback on that.
I don't have my actual notes. I think it's in item 7. There's a list of things that committee members have to be familiar with and agree to abide by. Yeah. Conflict of interest, disclosure, civility pledge. And I was thinking, we should add the social media policy to that. I mean, because that's, a big thing these days, and it's, we've had committee members in the past advocate one side or the other via social media, and I think every committee member needs to understand they're part of the legislative process and needs to work with the will of the entire committee. So.
I think if we want to add new elements, we'll probably have to take motions on that. Right
Okay.
now, the social media policy only applies to board members.
Okay. Okay.
And what we said in the orientation is generally committees should try to follow those,
Okay.
especially as it pertains to the business of their committee.
Okay.
And that goes to but there's already a confidentiality clause in the code of conduct, I believe. And so,
Okay.
which would imply you shouldn't be posting about
Okay.
the business of the committee unless it was something that was appropriate to do so. But
All right. That makes sense. The confidentiality probably trumps the social media. My last comment was, we talked about creating staggered terms on the committees, but there isn't any specific method for doing that. And I think it would be helpful for the committees if we had something said, this is how you do it,
absolutely. And since if we set the staggering up the first time, because we haven't had it before,
Yeah.
then it should kind of work out on its own unless something unusual happens and it has to get back on track. So for that first, there will be instructions, and the management liaison to each committee will help them with
Okay.
that process.
All right, great.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, that's all I have.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, or suggestions? So what you now need is actually a motion to make a recommendation to the master board. Is that correct?
I'll make a motion.
Do you want to incorporate his suggestions, or do you just want?
Sure, but I think that we're, add the liaison, is that,
Adding,
verbiage?
description of the liaison
Yeah.
and response, as that's the only
make a
one.
motion to recommend with the addition of a liaison?
Is there a sec? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Is there a second?
A second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? With those in favor of the motion regarding our recommendation on committee guidelines to the master board, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Anyone abstaining? The motion is approved. All right. And now, one last item before we finish. Dog park pilot discussion and action. As a reminder, this topic came up, I believe it was at the October board meeting, and it was tabled at that time pending receipt of additional information, including information about insurance. And there have been some other developments since then, so I'll turn it over to our very able executive director to kind of summarize and bring us up to speed on where we're at.
Thank you. Okay, so taking you back a little bit, just a quick recap. There was interest in the community to have an off-leash dog park. There was a working group that was created for this purpose. Their goal was to explore options, consult with experts, and gather community feedback.
This group met last year from May through September, and in part of their efforts, they engaged the community as one of the polling opportunities that they had to kind of gauge the temperature of the community. Of those responses, they did get good feedback on those. 56% believed a dog park would benefit the neighborhood. The most common concern expressed was cleanliness and maintenance, and nearly half of the respondents would not support increased assessments to fund the project. Next slide, please. The working group's recommendation came in, and they recommended moving forward with a pilot dog off-leash area in collaboration with the City of Austin. The Northwest Greenway was recommended as the preferred pilot location. Additional considerations included that they wanted to include were shade, separate areas for large and small dogs, water access, double gated entry, waste stations, and seating. The group also recommended establishing clear metrics for evaluating the success and for collecting user feedback during the pilot program. Next, thank you. In October of 2025, as Mike said, the board requested additional information before considering their recommendation. Specifically, the board asked for more information regarding maintenance costs, city guidelines, expert consultation, and landscape committee input. So staff was charged with getting that information. As a result of that, we had a meeting with the City Austin Parks and Recreation Department staff to better understand the requirements and guidelines, among other things. And we're on the next slide. Here we go. Thank you. So some of staff's findings, what we found was that city guidance indicates that a dog off-leash area should be at least 10,000 square feet and located away from sensitive areas such as playgrounds and schools. Facilities must include fencing, way stations, double entry gates, and safe site design. The Landscape Committee did respond, indicating that while the Northwest Greenway could physically accommodate the pilot, they have concerns regarding maintenance costs and community impact. Landscape professionals noted that dog parks can become valuable community hubs, but require intentional design, drainage, durable surfaces, and ongoing maintenance. Next slide. Some of the costs and the operational considerations that we found, the estimated annual maintenance and service cost range, it can be anywhere from $12,000 up to $20,000. A pilot installation is estimated at approximately $5,000, a little bit less than that. A permanent installation could cost approximately, and this is the low end number, about $115,000, depending on the design and the material. The operational impacts would primarily involve waste management, maintenance oversight, and monitoring usage during the pilot phase. So the intent of this presentation today was to provide a clear understanding of the research, the community feedback, and the operational considerations, and to provide you with some of the extra details that you don't feel that you received in the first presentation of this. So now I would like to turn it over back to you for the board, so for your consideration and discussion.
We'll start with board members. Any questions or comments regarding the presentation we just heard tonight?
Yeah, I have a few. Tricia, and maybe it's been too long since I thought about this, but so what is the City of Austin committed to pay for?
The simple piece of this is they provided funding for a chain link fence, which is not an approved fencing type for our community. So we would need to upgrade to an appropriate approved metal fencing type, similar to like the black metal post type fencings. And basically that was it. And the signage. So it was really basic what they offered us, and it was around $3,300, I believe, was what the estimated cost would be from them.
And do we know if that money's still available? From the
I
city?
do not. We would have to request it again.
And then the maintenance cost, your range was 12 to 20,000,
Yes,
and that would wholly be funded by us.
correct.
And this is all, I guess, depending on where it would be located, which budget item it would fit into, but assuming it was in a greenway or city-owned property, that would be part of our greenway maintenance costs. So
The budget part of it and the line item for it, it could either be broken out to have its own line item to support that, so you can specifically see what the costs are for that and identify it that way, or it can be absorbed in the general maintenance costs of the parks.
and I guess where I was going with that is if we already have an agreement with the city that they reimburse us somewhat for greenway maintenance, would we be able to include that maintenance cost as part of at least a request to the city to increase their maintenance contribution to us?
So currently their maintenance contribution is just slightly above what our already maintenance costs are. So we could always ask that, and we could use that as justification to ask for more. But at this point, they're meeting us almost halfway.
Yeah, I mean, last year we spent almost $100,000 more than we had budgeted on greenway maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And the budget for this year is 3 times what it was for last year, and that's property we don't own, and we just have some obligation to maintain, but they have an obligation to at least reimburse part.
Right. And I believe that based on the timing of it, we would be able to submit for reconsideration of that partnership funding this year for the budget cycle for them that starts at their fiscal year.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but my recollection is we don't have that maintenance cost or the construction costs in the 2026 budget, correct?
Correct.
Board members, other questions? Yes, Karen.
I have a question about the number for the permanent. If we did move forward the pilot and then there was a decision later, I recall the numbers being much higher that Parks Department gave us for the permanent construction, like $300,000 to $500,000. So you said this was the low end?
Yes. So this is the parks also included sidewalks and trails, which we don't need that. So that was not included in this. And some of our numbers here are very basic to minimize the impacts or the cost. So that's, like I said, the low end. If you wanted something better, more attractive, things like that, then the cost would continue to go up.
Thank you.
Board members, other questions?
I have a question. So
Yes.
what's the Fido and Me Foundation?
That is a water fountain that is what you typically find in dog park areas, and they have the lower end is the water bowl, basically for the dogs, and then the top end is for the person. So it's a kind of a dual.
Oh,
Yeah. I have a question. It's a technicality. With regard to the chain link fence, couldn't we as a board override that rule for the purpose of a pilot dog park?
That would be a consideration for you all.
Other questions? Yes, go ahead, Jeff.
Tim just raised an interesting comment to me. I suspect whatever
the design would have to be approved by a new construction council?
Or the modification. Mm-hmm.
So that, I mean, if it was approved by new NCC, as far as I know, the master board can't even override the decision of the NCC. So
That's right.
if they decided it wouldn't meet the design guidelines, there's not anything the master board could do to undo the
Yeah.
recommendation.
We're just talking
of the
about a
NCC.
temporary 1-year chain link fence, so that's
Yeah.
what I'm understanding is. It's-
And we already do that for construction and other temporary things. Like, we've seen the trail locations when closed,
Mhm.
right? Like, that's a temporary thing, it's not a permanent thing,
Okay.
by every definition of the word.
Yeah, it's temporary fencing, is effectively what the pilot program would be.
Michael?
Yes.
I think we want to confirm this, but I think the new construction council is looking at permanent structures, and I think temporary doesn't apply to the new construction council, but we would want to verify that.
Other questions, comments? I have one question. The $114,000 cost for a permanent site, assuming that's per site, so if you have more than one site, you double it. Are there any other variables driving the cost of that? You mentioned a couple, but I'm just wanted to make sure we had a good idea. And I know we're only talking pilot here, but I assume if the pilot were successful, then the question would be, come up about maintaining a permanent site. So just trying to figure out what else is driving that cost.
So most of the costs are listed there in the packet that I provided for you. And again, the spacing though for this, the one that's up there is a very small, it's the minimum size of about 10,000 square feet run. So it is a smaller end for an off-leash dog area as well.
I don't have a great way of visualizing that square footage, but does that, in the space in the Northwest Greenway that's being considered for that large portion of it, is it a small? I have a hard time seeing that in my mind's eye.
I agree with you. But yes, it would accommodate that space, and that is what the Austin Parks and Rec said, that it would accommodate that as well.
Other questions? Nothing?
We ready for a motion?
Before we do, I just want to make absolutely sure that nobody has any other questions. There's no other information that you want beyond what's already been provided and what we've discussed over the last, some cases, several months.
I'll just mention, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian DeLiesel. I represent the developer on this project, on this board. And if you've come to some of these meetings before, when we had the swim team discussion, I, representing the developer, chose to abstain from the conversation because there are certain topics like the swim team, like the dog park, that the developer, myself included, feels should be decided by the property owners, not by the developer. So I will be abstaining in this vote as well, just FYI.
Okay.
I think it depends on the motion. If, after a motion, there's still more discussion.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else from anyone? So Kez, you wanted to make a motion regarding the dog park.
Yes, yeah, I want to make a motion that we, let's see, I didn't write it down, so this is off the top of my head, I can write it down, but, that we do the pilot in the Northwest Greenway, and we also send staff to do analysis for the Zach Scott location as well, similar to the Northwest Greenway analysis.
And just for clarification, you'd mentioned Zach Scott, that you are talking about the Garcia Park, just so, since that's the formal name, just so we're very clear about that.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it just so we can
Have a
open
discussion.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
So I'm gonna take Kathy's comments to heart about we're really understaffed and overwhelmed at the master level on what's going on in the neighborhood. And just discussions of things we want to add is sort of overriding this discussion of how do we maintain the things we already have, particularly row homes. And so it would be nice, I think, to give us a little break at the master level and at staff level so that we can get caught up on where we should be with regard to maintaining the community as it is. So I would follow with Kaz on recommending to the master board that they do the Northwest Greenway. We try that Northwest Greenway pilot. Because we haven't budgeted for 26, I think we ought to wait till we put it in the budget and start it in 27. And after 27, January 27, we come back and revisit the notion of studying additional locations. That's
your plan. Other thoughts?
I've been really, thinking about this a lot, and I agree with, what Joe has said in terms of we are, our strategic plan says we want to be brilliant on the basics, and we're not. We're not there yet. We're still striving towards that. That's still the goal. We're improving processes all the time and making things a little bit better, but we don't have, we just lost staff and we're not able to respond as quickly to our association members when they contact staff as, we want to. There are areas that we aren't maintaining now that we need to. The row home maintenance is terribly behind, and we have the roofing project looming. We have strategic initiatives like having a plan for landscaping, our biggest expense. And so there's so much going on that's already like stretching to get us better that it feels like trying to expand the notion here to include another pilot area is a bridge too far for us right now, and maybe not a good business decision. The pilot of the Northwest Greenway, even that, I know there's a lot of interest in the dog park. I realize that. I could support the pilot of the Northwest Greenway if we ensured that there wasn't an expectation that it was going to start in 26. So we could budget for it, plan for it, and maybe have time to rebuild and be better able to do that pilot and then consider if there's another location we want to consider then. I think that makes sense for where we are right now. If we were already brilliant on the basics, then we could take on more. But that's not where we're at. And the staff that we have now are very good. Okay? I don't want you to get the impression that people sitting here in the room aren't really good, dedicated people, but we've lost some and in key positions. So I agree with what Joe said.
Yeah, I had a couple things, and I wanted to thank everybody for coming out. We're all here because we love our community, we love our city. So it's great to see involvement from all the folks. Thanks to the staff for preparing this. I definitely understand where folks are coming from, especially with brain damage over the weekend as well. We do need to, that's got to be a priority for staff, priority for the board as well, making sure that that the basics are handled appropriately and urgently. I do think that we can have parallel tracks for multiple things at once if it's not taking up too much staff time and staff energy. But with that, those are good points, and so I would, I'm forgetting the exact process off the top of my head, but I would move, or I would.
You want to amend your motion?
Amend my motion from the Northwest Greenway, removing that part of it, and then just look at the analysis for the Zach Scott location, so that we don't have to worry about the budget for that one. It does. I'm heavily persuaded that usage at Garcia Park would be. It would get used a lot more, and I've walked over by there many times over the last couple of weeks. A lot of people are already currently using it, and I think that we should really shoot for amenities that would be well loved by lots in the community, lots of people in the community, and the Northwest Greenway is just not going to be utilized quite as much.
I'll second your amendment to, I don't know, do we have to?
Well, I think it would, just for the sake of clarity, would you restate your amended motion so that everybody understands?
Yes, I move that we forward a recommendation, or I don't know if we have, if it has to go to the master board for this, but that staff does the same analysis for the Garcia Park, dog park location, and to put a pause on any further work for the Northwest Greenway.
For how long? The rest of this year, or just want to be?
For 6 months, at least. So that we can talk about it again during budget season.
Okay. And want to second?
I'll second that, yeah. Yeah, I think the Northwest location, although it's convenient, I think it's effectively a vote for not having a dog park at all. I think that Cooper's graphics are very persuasive. And the thing is that this is part of the bigger issue is the really the flagrant disregard of city ordinances regarding unleashed dogs in our streets and our parks, particularly Gerard Kinney Park every evening and weekend. And if we, and I see this as one step toward helping that, but we still need to address the bigger issue with regard to enforcement. And so I hope that the management company will, proactively address that or make plans to address that in the months to come.
And just to clarify, there is a serious problem here with people violating the city leash laws, but it's a totally separate issue and has to be addressed on its own, regardless of what happens.
I only mention it now is because that's been the justification for the dog parks. And so I just want to make sure that we address that as well.
Okay.
I want to make a comment about the Northwest location. It is the closest location for virtually every apartment in the neighborhood. We're valued residents here, and so I don't want to dismiss that that's saying no to a dog park. There's a huge community here that doesn't have access to a yard. And they're just as valuable and wonderful, and I'm not saying that you're not saying that, but I think that's an important consideration of that location. That I think is exciting. I think it's exciting to give an amenity in a part of the neighborhood in that part of the Greenway that feels underutilized right now. It feels like we could leverage extra function out of a space that is not serving a specific function at this moment.
I'll also just add real quickly to that. I think the original idea of a off-leash area in Miller was to serve not just Miller residents, but the surrounding neighborhoods as well. I know there's been a lot of conversation about parking in front of people's vehicles or at homes, not enough parking at the skate park, etc. Whatever your opinion is of the Northwest Greenway versus Garcia Park, we have talked to the regional manager or the manager of the regional retail center, who says that they don't have an issue with this, so parking should not be an issue at the Northwest Greenway, which would serve, again, a lot of residents outside of the Miller community. Just FYI.
One other consideration that I want to think about as we're coming up with these motions is correct me if I'm wrong, staff and board members, I think consideration of a second location actually is a pretty big task on the staff. So when we think about what we can handle right now. I don't think just physically putting it in there, but actually that I don't want to discount all the work that people put in to getting to where we're at right now, and that has been a lot of hours, and I'm very appreciative of it. And I'm not saying anything negative about Garcia, but I think to really be thoughtful about that is when we're talking about stretch staff is a consideration.
And Amanda, I would sort of jump on that. If you move it to Garcia Park, we're talking about putting it on POA property, which changes our entire risk exposure on that. We'll have to go back and address risk exposure that we don't have to deal with being on city property. We also lose the opportunity to get reimbursement from the city for greenway expenses that we could sort of shove it into that category to begin with. So that, we'd have to go back, we're gonna have to go back and look at all kinds of additional issues if we're gonna study the Garcia Park area.
And just to add to that, I think that analysis, if and when it's done, would also have to include reaching out to the homes that would be across Zach Scott from it, and the school, and the community as a whole, just like we did in the previous. I mean, that was a lot of work. And that's what I think we can't do this year.
Okay,
That's my opinion.
For sure. And I would support a longer timeline for staff to do that analysis. And I think some of that analysis has been done by various parties as well as with the city. Discussions with the city about that location as well. If as well as deprioritizing it, or not saying that other things are a higher priority. I for sure hear you on that, on the prioritization. I would like to not put off for another year or whatnot, but I understand. I'm going to vote for my motion, of course, but I would say if what I'm hearing is a friendly amendment that in the motion that staff not prioritize it, as well as it can take multiple months. So I don't know what staff would say on how long they would request for a deprioritized staff analysis. I guess that would be a question.
So if you want an estimated number by budget time, that is going to be around July, August timeframe. And we will be knee-deep in our landscape management plan, our row home renovation plan, our landscape renovation plan. In addition to that, we have our GIS plan that should be starting in April timeframe as well. So even though that is gracious to give us that buffer, when you add all those others to it, it still feels almost impossible to achieve that timeline by budget time.
Okay. So then, what do you think about August, September timeframe? Would that be enough?
I will tell you that we will try to prioritize it.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
And I appreciate that. It's realistically though, it is again a long list, and I would never say that we just want to put it off just for the sake of putting it off, because I understand the importance of this. And I would love to say that yes, we can have it done by August or September at the latest. And that is what I would aim for. But if that didn't happen, then I would feel as though we did not fulfill what our agreement was at the same time. There's one more thing we need to think about, and that is the fact that we are already going to be transitioning another huge amenity into the ownership of the POA with the pavilion this year. So there is a lot on the plate this year. These aren't just trying to put off this. This is like realistic that there's too much this year already.
For sure. Part of my thinking is, I think the proposal from the coalition is put up a fence and let's try it. And like a very basic, their proposal feels like it's put up a fence, they want to pay for it, get the funding, and then try it, and if the community doesn't like it, if we don't like it, if it doesn't work, then this analysis goes a lot further, for sure. But it feels like it could be simpler. Maybe that's not, maybe I'm the only one seeing it. We are talking about like long-term amenity. I get it. But if I'm the only one that sees it that way, then I can respect that.
I just want to clarify, is Zach's or Garcia Park, is that in fact a POA property or a city property?
It will become a POA property under the master development agreement. So
Okay.
that's the challenge. It's not.
Okay, so that would, clearly, I agree with Joe, we have to make sure wherever this is, it's a city property. And so we would have to, I don't know if you can, I guess, what's involved with making that amendment to the master development?
Well, if you're talking about changing the master development agreement, that's something outside of our,
Yeah.
we can't.
So I just
And the
want to
project's
understand.
almost is nearing an end, so it would be hard to kind of amend it this late. That's
I can-
just an opinion.
I can clarify that. So, like all the parks in Miller, with the exception of the greenways, they were former airport land owned by the city, all planned to be transferred to the property owner association, going back to 2004 when everyone decided that HARD didn't have the resources to be able to maintain the parks in Miller as well, to the same, or weren't able to maintain the parks to the level that the community anticipated they would be maintained. So there's always a delay from the time that the POA receives maintenance responsibility for the parks. There's a warranty period for, just checking sure to make sure everything is working properly, et cetera. And then frankly, there's just, like the POA has priorities, so does the project in terms of, all the legal maneuvering that needs to be done in order to do the transfer. So yes, in the coming, probably within the next few weeks, actually, Carrillo de Garcia Park will be transferred over to the POA. I'm sorry, I'm just add one other thing. All of the parks have what's called a public use overlay, meaning which allows the public, not just Miller residents and property owners, to use our parks. So under that public overlay, if the POA in the future wanted to allow Parks and Recreation to operate some kind of amenity, whether it's a dog park or some other amenity, that is certainly possible with that public overlay. But as part of the agreement between the City of Austin, Parks and Recreation Department, and the POA, both parties have to agree to any improvements made to any of the greenways, and that would probably apply in this case as well.
Is that the conservation easement or parkland easement? Is it an easement?
It's a public access easement.
Right. Doesn't that also change the liability for the POA as well?
If the POA allowed HARD to operate an amenity on there, the agreement would have to include that HARD would be using the city's insurance and avoid the POA's liability.
Would we get reimbursement for it?
That would to be determined. And going back to what Joe was saying, the agreement has that the HARD pays for the minimal amount of maintenance of the greenways, essentially the same amount of money that they would spend on maintaining a park in any other part of the city. But again, higher standards at Miller, more amenities, the demonstration gardens on the Southwest Greenway, the ponds, all that kind of stuff. There's an expectation that the Miller community would pay significantly more for more maintenance, better maintenance than what HARD could provide. So at any time, we as any other community in Austin could go back to the city and ask for additional money. As we all know right now, the city doesn't have a whole lot of money. That doesn't mean that we can't ask for it.
Other questions or comments? I've got one. Brian, since you were on the work group, is it your understanding that the $10,000 that the city was gonna provide for the pilot, that's only 1 year? Would, if we don't open a pilot until 2027, do we have any idea whether or not that money would still be available?
Well, just to clarify, I was not officially on the working group, I was just an advisory of the working group. But it's my understanding from the last conversations we had with Parks and Recreation, they are committed to doing a pilot program. They were as of last year, as the beginning of this year, they actually also expressed interest. That could always change at any given time, so it would be good for us to go back and check with PARD to make sure that they still have the resources to do a pilot. And to clarify, they were only going to pay for the infrastructure for the pilot program. They were not going to pay for any maintenance, and they were not going to pay for a permanent location.
So the maintenance even for the pilot is on us, basically.
Correct, that was always the original intention.
Other questions or comments? The only other comment I'd add is, to me, the big number was that 114,000 just for one pilot. And I would.
Permanent.
That's for the permanent.
Permanent.
Permanent, correction.
The pilot was much.
I know the pilot was much smaller, but to me, it almost sounds like those teaser rates that they get you to come in and say, oh yeah, it only costs $10,000, and then they hit you with, soon it's a couple of $100,000, and with labor cost, material cost, it goes up over time. And understand that's the kind of commitment we're looking at making. No matter what we do, no matter what site, it could be more or less depending on the location, but what started out as a wonderful, I still think it's a wonderful idea and an amenity I'd love to have, but when you start putting hundreds of thousands of dollars to work on a particular amenity for an unlimited amount of time, that I think kind of almost forces you to make decisions about what's good to have and what's necessary. And that's basically my biggest concern. Like I said, I'd love for us to at least try a pilot. So, because everything we've been talking about is theoretical. It was like, we think this would be good, or we think that would be good, until you've actually done one. In this environment, this isn't Auditorium Shores, it isn't some of the other sites. We really don't know. But, you know, money talks. And right now, we've got lots of demands on the limited financial resources we have. So, any other comments or thoughts?
I think something on that, I agree with what you're saying. I think the Trail Foundation model with like Zilker Park, as well as the Violet Crown Trail Foundation, or Hill Country Conservancy Foundation, they have a good, that's kind of a good way that they've showed how there could be a public-private partnership, so that they can, it's to the betterment for the entire community. I think the working group, the coalition, they're proposing something similar to that. I'm most supportive of the Garcia site because of the amount of work that the coalition's done to build up that rapport with Austin Parks Foundation as well as PARD. And I think that also opens them up for sponsorship money as well, so that a lot of these costs, both the pilot and the permanent, could be borne by sponsors, could be borne by the community, so it wouldn't have to come out of the POA budget specifically. That's in contrast to the Northwest Greenway. That's part of the reason that I'm much more supportive of that location, because it doesn't hit our finances quite, or potentially couldn't hit our finances quite as hard.
Would that be, Cass, part of the study? I mean, we could factor into the staff's analysis this ability to get outside funding, and the likelihood of getting the outside funding, have it all packaged up and come back. So, like, and I'm sort of protective of Tricia and staff, now not wanting to overload them in the near term, but, I mean, if the, she's still here.
She is.
Oh, there she is. I don't, no, I'm not gonna.
No. That part of the meeting is over.
If we could coordinate, almost back to the working group, almost a working group just for Garcia Park to come back with a recommendation to us by, I would want to say January 1, but that may be too long. But starting with that, maybe let's say January 1st, and a new working group would come forward with a recommendation on a dog park pilot project.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think also like I was mentioning with the Trail Foundation, they do a lot of their own, with that partnership, and we're nowhere near at that step yet. But there's certainly analysis, if they have the resources, that's their idea, their proposal, they have the resources to come up with third-party independent cost assessments, analysis for a variety of things as well. That takes a lot of the load off the staff. And staff, so in that way, staff could be more of a kind of a reviewer of those proposals. And so like, your quality check-in to see what, if it's an engineering analysis, who's stamping it, is it a bona fide analysis survey, all kinds of things like that, as opposed to creating the products.
Well, and could we include in whatever that analysis is, that there would be an analysis of covering how we would fund permanent, assuming that the pilot went well, how we would fund any permanent improvements that needed to be done, because I don't know how we justify, because I know it'll be more than $102,000, how we justify starting down this process knowing that we have no source of funds.
Right.
For that permanent structure. So, I mean, if it was all wrapped up in a package that came in where we could see, look at it, and we would be comfortable that there would be funding available, wouldn't be us. Because one of the things nobody mentioned is, I'm pretty sure in that survey, at least the survey we did at the annual meeting, there was no appetite for use of community funds for the dog park. There was
Even for the pilot, yeah.
After the pilot, there was no appetite for funding that. So I think we need to respect that part of the community's desires as well. And I would like to see Cooper's maps revised at some point. He's still missing Amley 5, he's missing Greenway Lofts. And Greenway Lofts would be the absolute closest residences to the Northwest Greenway site. And also his distribution within the neighborhood. But that's just me being.
Yeah.
So that's what I think I would be supportive of just doing away with the Northwest Greenway pilot and delegating to somebody other than staff to work on.
And then, you mean doing away, not doing the Northwest pilot?
Not doing the Northwest pilot. I think that was Cass's last amendment.
That it's put on pause.
Pause.
Yeah, so like, yeah, I mean, and I'd be willing to, like, let's put it on indefinite pause.
That sounds like you want to kill,
Yeah,
basically.
I'm open to that, but I'm not,
Yeah.
like, again, if we're prioritizing, then,
I've talked to representatives from Delwood who are also very close to the Northwest Greenway. I think it would serve so many people in this neighborhood who don't have yards. I think the point of a pilot, we have a parking there. It would, to me, would feel a big bummer to not say yes to that after the amount of time and effort people have put in. To consider an alternative site potentially in the future. It seems like there's support for that site, and I'm not saying that needs to be the only pilot or that's where the discussion has to stop, but it would feel to me like a bummer to not allow the people that would really benefit from that site the ability to move forward with something. It feels like we spent a lot of resources to get to that point.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. I was kind of unclear on the motion. I mean, there are advantages to the Northwest Greenway site that have been talked about before, but I mean, it's right there by by PetSmart and the animal hospital. There might be some opportunities to get some programs going, at least with PetSmart, that would be really exciting for the dog park. And it's a beautiful park. To me, I understand the 15 to 20 minutes to walk to an amenity, but somehow we get to HEB almost every day. And my definition of convenient amenity is one that's in the neighborhood, because it's in the neighborhood. And so if we're so particular that that's too far and it's in the neighborhood, I have other concerns about that. And I know there's a lot of interest in the other location. I do like the idea of getting a full proposal that answers all the questions in our policy on making recommendations, that would go through that process and be fully kind of developed. And, but my personal request is, can we not put it on the staff this year? It's just too much.
Karen, I mean, I agree. I would really not like to put anything on staff. So I would almost vote no on all pilot dog projects, because it's going to take staff time to set up the pilot project. It's going to take staff a lot of time. We don't have John and we don't have Tom, so we've lost sort of that entire capability. We'll replace it, but we don't have it now. And whoever we have doing that sort of maintenance work, who I assume would be responsible for finding the chain link and setting it up and doing all of that, needs to be focused on row home repairs and maintenance right now. So.
You're right, it's the same type of professions that we'd be hitting, yes.
So even going forward with the Northwest Greenway pilot is going to take a lot of staff.
Other questions? Go ahead.
What would it take to resurrect the working group, a volunteer group, to be working in the meantime to look at those options?
Well, I mean, my thought, what I started with, right, which was we could do the pilot project, let's start the pilot project in January, and after that starts, then any other considerations for other dog parks could then bubble up through the amenity addition process. What do you call it, Karen?
Recommendations.
The recommendation.
Policy.
And they could probably even at the same time be working on what the permanent solution would be. I mean, we talk about the Northwest as the pilot. That doesn't mean that the permanent would also have to be more complex, right?
If we aligned this all in 2027, I think the same group could be, we've already done the work of exploring what 2 locations would look like, northwest, southeast. So we've zoomed past that for this year for those 2 locations. If we did a pilot at the northwest, the same group could be the people in 2027 looking at that and investigating a different site, looking at the feedback, figuring out where one or multiple permanent sites go. But it seems like really, I agree. And my preference is to shift the work into 2027, use the work we've already done in identifying the Northwest so that we can kick that off sooner without having to start from scratch, and align that staff time for that year.
For sure. And so it sounds like we're culminating around nothing this year for staff. I'm definitely, I hear that.
Lots of things this year for staff,
No,
just
no,
maybe
for
not
sure.
this.
Not adding.
For sure. I'm trying to think what would be a good way to set in motion the Dog Park Coalition so that they're able to start doing their analysis, they're able to start fundraising, if that's what they choose to do, they're able to bring some of those products without taking up staff resources, so that there's some kind of steps to go through in the process that's not taking away from that valuable staff time.
Before we do it, I have a question. I believe it was envisioned that the pilot, there would be an analysis done of the pilot to figure out how well it did or didn't work at whatever location it was. And I certainly would not be comfortable voting to commit hundreds of thousands of dollars of homeowners' money to anything without a pilot. Who was going to do the analysis of that pilot? Do we know?
Parks and Recreation.
Oh, okay.
Parks builds it.
Again, and they were only going to do that analysis if it's in one of the greenways? Is that our understanding?
Based on what the working group was focused on, which was in the greenways at that time. Park could always, if we ask them to, again, if there is, with this public easement, if POA says, hey, we want HARD to have access to Rio de Garcia Park for a possible pilot program, we just have a conversation with them to see what they're willing to do.
Other comments or thoughts?
I thought I recalled that the idea of the pilot evaluation included some kind of group who would monitor the pilot, and they would have set out evaluation criteria. Did I just invent that?
No, I think that was, in fact, I think it's in one of the slides. Set clear metrics for success to evaluate, including a PR code survey for the
That's
pilot
right.
users.
Yeah, so, I think if we could push the Northwest pilot to 27, January 1, so to speak, there would be some things to work out even to get to there in terms of getting organized around a pilot and what how to evaluate it, how to work that group into it. There would be a lot of planning that could be done just to do the Northwest pilot. And then for another pilot, it would need to go through the steps that's laid out in our recommendation policy of what is supposed to come to us, including any other, creative financing options and that kind of thing, including the community outreach part. And all of that is laid out in what we request to come forward to start a new initiative like that.
Anyway, other thoughts? Has everybody said everything they wanted to say? Okay. For the final time, can you, because it sounds like the motion keeps evolving. So do you want to restate it as you intended now?
So initially, I motioned to pursue Northwest Greenway and also asked staff to prepare presentation analysis for the Garcia Park. That was seconded. Then I made an amendment to my motion, put a pause on the Northwest Greenway for 6 months, asked staff to pursue analysis of Garcia Park only. And so that's the motion on the table. And so I think the way it would work is we vote on that amendment and then we vote on.
Well, if you've amended your own proposal, it's not somebody else's amendment, then it would be yours, because you control what's in your motion.
So, for sure. So it sounds like what would be a friendly amendment would be put a pause on Northwest Greenway for a 1 January kickoff, right? That's what I heard. 1 January kickoff. 1 January of 27. Sorry, I'm taking notes in. Do it at once.
Are you saying we would move forward with it starting on January 1st?
I
Or pause any discussions until January 1st?
That's what I'm, I'm hearing kickoff, like pilot implementation in Northwest Greenway, January 1st.
Okay.
I'm trying to,
But we just want to be clear, remember, you state exactly what you're now saying. So you're saying,
I mean,
start everything January 2027 with Northwest, and is that correct? Because I don't, everybody be very clear what we're voting for.
I think that's a friendly amendment put forward, right? So it's whether or not I accept it.
Well,
as
yeah,
a
you have
friendly
to,
amendment.
it has to be acceptable
So
to you.
So the friendly amendment is, it's not a 6-month pause, it's a 1 January 2027 kickoff implementation for Northwest Greenway, right? That's the friendly amendment? And so I take
Is that acceptable?
That is acceptable. It sounds like there's also a friendly amendment for not staff to not pursue it of the park, but that the dog park coalition pursues that analysis with a way to present it through the typical process, right?
Is that our?
I don't, do we want to empower a non-POA group to be in charge of I would like to include them, but are you saying they're in charge of
No.
that analysis?
No, they're just invited,
Okay.
if they so choose to do that.
And is that consistent with our proposal process that we outlined last month? And if somebody wants to make a proposal, they.
Yeah, I mean, it's for members to bring forward
Okay.
proposals. And part of that is, how's the funding is covered in there, how they propose that funding happen, how the steps to take, the stakeholder input about the site, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. That's what.
And so I would take that as a friendly amendment if we can give assurances that we would like to see Garcia Park as a pilot location if all those concerns are addressed. So that gives certainty to the coalition that they can not only talk to private donors, but they can also talk to city council members that represent us as well. If the city wants to pay for it, I mean, I think that handles a lot of our biggest concerns.
Without engagement of the neighbors, though, that are, we did a methodical engagement of neighbors facing the Southeast Greenway, and we've not done that.
Yeah, for sure, and that would be steps in the future as well.
Yeah, it would be following the policy.
Yes.
In making a proposal for another pilot project, right?
Yes, but
sounds
also
like we're-
giving, affirmatively saying that is a location we want to explore. It's like being very clear that is on the table for analysis for us, like explicitly.
Okay.
And so that's not to say we're gonna do it, but that is to say that it's not off the table explicitly. For sure. And so I would take that as a friendly amendment. Does that sound like that wraps into place?
Yeah, I think so.
So that's your revised motion.
Yes.
Is there a second to your revised motion?
I'll second.
Okay. So let me see if, I'm going to try to restate it, and you tell me if it's right.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, yes.
Okay. Essentially, your motion is proceed with Northwest Greenway site in January of 2027 and research.
Invite.
Research a second site in Garcia Park following the established proposal processes for the POA. Does that cover your revised motion?
As well as, we want to see the analysis on that location. We're open to that as a future pilot dog park analysis.
So analysis that includes community engagement.
Yes.
So who are we asking to do this?
We're just saying that is, we are saying as a board, that option is on the table.
I would say, I would add, invite community members to offer an analysis of a second option.
But it's got to follow the POA recommendation process. That's the key.
As per POA recommendation policy.
Okay.
And this is the recommendation that we're making to the master board that we're
Yes.
talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, this is very important. You want to take your time. We've spent this much time talking about it. We want to get this motion right.
Yeah. And I do think we're trying to codify the potential, but there always is the potential.
Right.
So, following the POA process.
Yeah,
I don't
that's,
think we have to prescribe that so detailed.
Right.
yeah, but since that process is new, I think it's important that
Yeah.
this is, because we didn't have this process last year, and things were kind of, I want to say seat of your pants, but, you know, it was a learning experience, and I'd rather not have to learn that lesson again, second time, so.
So, let me try to say, implement the Northwest Greenway pilot for 1 January 2027. Allow the dog park the coalition to do analysis under the POA recommendation policy with the mixed-use board being supportive of Garcia Park as a potential future site.
No, I don't think the mixed-use board's taking a position. I think you do the research, because otherwise you're committing the board to a decision before you've had the research done on it.
We're just supportive of it as a potential future site.
Analysis of it.
Analysis of it, yeah. Because I don't know what the analysis will show.
I think we're just inviting
I have
the
to.
Dog Park Coalition or any other community.
Yeah, we want to clarify something.
I just want to clarify, when we say January 1 of '27, we're talking about beginning the implementation of the Northwest.
Pilot, emphasis on pilot.
Yeah, so that means doing the work to create the pilot project.
So it opens on 1 January.
No.
Okay.
It starts with-
That's why I was
Oh,
clarifying.
okay. So, is that what we want to ask them? Is that, we want staff to put a pause on any additional Northwest Greenway work until 1
Except
January?
maybe planning, but
Yeah.
not start implementing it, like doing the construction of it and all that.
I got you. So then, what would be a good way to phrase that?
Tricia, what would be a good way to phrase that?
We're asking for technical advice.
That is my question to you, so.
Is your intent like to have a grand opening January 1, gates fly open and dogs are ready? Or is your intent to say that staff will start no later than January 1 on building the pilot program?
They don't. City Park owns it.
So what's?
So
Yep.
the work would commence in January of '27 on the Northwest Greenway pilot. How's that? That the work would commence. Then we don't have to name the workers and the
Yeah.
affiliations.
So was that work to commence no later than, or that is no earlier than?
No earlier, I think.
No earlier
No
than.
early.
Okay.
So is this something the POA would construct, or is it something the city would construct?
No, I think,
The city would build the fencing for the pilot program.
Okay.
They'll pay for it and they will actually install it.
okay.
We are responsible as the POA to maintain what's installed for the pilot program.
But I would assume there's some coordination.
Yes,
Yeah.
there would need to be some coordination with the staff.
So one more time, work to commence on the Northwest Greenway pilot for 1 January 2027. Allow the Dog Park Coalition to do analysis under the POA recommendation policy. The mixed-use board is supportive of analysis of the Garcia Park as a potential future site.
Analysis, yes.
Yes,
Not a commitment to anything.
yes,
Something else could come up.
correct.
Okay, everybody got that? And we've got a second, and you're still good with the second?
Yeah.
All righty. Those I'll call for the vote then. Those in favor of the motion, the revised motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and one abstaining. All right, the motion is approved. Our next meeting will be actually in this room, April 13th. Are there is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second? I hear no objections. Meeting adjourned. This was an off one, but since we've already got the room reserved for next month, then we'll revert back to our regular schedule.
Yes, the next meeting at.
It'll be here. We go back. This was a one-off because we. Huh? Does anybody need this one?
Thank you.
Sure.
Have a nice day.
All right. No.
Thank you, y'all. I appreciate it.
Okay.
There are some important facts that need to be clarified there. I can do that. Planning to send it to Kayak because I'm chair of the full committee.
Oh, okay.
But I also would like to talk to the Kayak about this because it does involve coordination between the city and the POA. But
So that's the end of the mixed use board for March of 2026. A lot of good information about the dog park. Please check, subscribe, and like so we can bring this kind of information to you again. Thank you so much.